Welcome to episode 28 of PuckPod by BD Sports. I'm Brian. I'm here with David and Christian. We're still doing our little short clip episode style up until the point we get into the playoffs. This is probably the last time we do that because of the fact that playoffs are right around the corner, or they're even next week. But you guys know how we start this. David, how's your week?
Dude, I had a great week. Leafs picked up a couple of wins over the weekend. Was watching that. Last night, dude, watched the newest episode of Succession, and wow, what a doozy of an episode. I know these guys in here don't watch it, but like I told them to. I love like all of HBO's stuff has been going crazy. It's been so good. And all I'll say for this last episode was this is probably the second most depressing wedding HBO has ever put out. If you know,
The
you
Red
know.
Wedding. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
To
Anyway,
be honest, like I'm the guy who never is up to date with the hit shows. Like, okay, so for you guys, Game of Thrones, did you guys watch Game of Thrones?
I did.
Yep.
I started
Okay,
watching like mid season three, so like I was on that like really early.
got you. So
Uh,
I never watched Game of Thrones.
yeah.
Stranger Things. Did you guys
Yeah.
watch Stranger Things?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I
Oh,
haven't
dude,
watched
it's so
Stranger Things.
good. So good, guys. Come on.
I don't know. See, I'm already running out of names for the it shows, but my point is, yeah, I just
Yeah,
haven't
those are
watched
the big
them.
ones.
Yeah, I'm more of like a as we're on a podcast, I am more of a podcast guy. So I just like I'll go down random rabbit holes. This week I did a lot of research into like ice baths. I now know a ton about ice baths. I just random stuff. So I like to do that. And I always say when people like talk to me about TV shows and I tell them like I don't watch anything. I tell them I do watch a TV show. There's a season every year, you know, we're like in our 106th season of the show. And it's crazy because I always know how the show ends, at least in the past seven seasons. It always ends the same way. It's really sad. And yeah, I'm talking about the Leafs. Yeah, great show. But my week in general was okay. You know, it was a big family weekend because of Easter. So anybody watching, happy Easter and happy Easter to these two guys here. Lots of eating, lots of napping, and yeah, lots of watching sports. Masters, Jays, Leafs. So pretty good weekend. How about you, Brian?
I did my best to avoid sports. Avoid hockey. Capitals got knocked out. Uh, I don't want to get into it, but I just want to say that up until this point, the worst season I've ever seen was 90 points. 90 points is respectable, right? This season, they might finish with like 81. So, uh, yeah, put in perspective about how I feel about the season. And unfortunately, Crosby did get to 1,500 points over this past week before Crosby got to 1,500 points this week before Ovechkin, which kind of stinks, but it's okay. How do you guys feel about that milestone?
Man, only 1,500. It's just so crazy to think. And I know this might bring up some I don't know what this is gonna bring up, but like David Steckel single handedly took out like basically about 2 years of Crosby's career. Like
It's
now
about
listen,
200 points. Could have been at 1,700 this week,
he
but
he could have been,
Leafs
right? Like that
legend.
was that was like early that was like mid 20s Crosby, right? Like that was like about to
Yeah.
hit his prime Crosby. Um thank God he ended up rebounding and was able to come back and finish out like the rest of his career after those types of injuries. But yeah, no, it's the biggest what if in hockey. What if injuries never existed? But hats off to Sidney Crosby for getting to 1,500. It's a milestone that very few players have ever reached, will ever reach. Right? Like you have to be the elite of the elite to get to that plateau. So, yeah, I know Brian might not be the biggest fan of Crosby, but for me and Christian,
the
who,
respect is there, though.
yeah, like me and Christian follow Canadian hockey, right? Like I know Brian's the American hockey fan on here, but Sidney Crosby synonymous with OT gold medal winners, right? So he'll always hold a place in my heart. Maybe not that fondly for Brian again, but Christian, what are your opinions on that?
I echo a lot of things you said. Obviously, that Olympic winner, like that's one of those moments where you can recall exactly where you were, who you were with, your whole. I can recall my whole day for that specific game. Like it's incredible. And just the way he scored the milestone goal, it was a beauty. It was, and it's not necessarily a signature Crosby goal. It was like a toe drag release snipe from the top of the circle. That's not really like Crosby can obviously do that, but when you think like signature Crosby, I imagine like maybe a 2-on-1 or breakaway and just backhand roof, like just the nasty bad Crosby backhand. Um, how do you guys feel about that? Because there's another guy who scored a milestone goal today or yesterday, and he scored his goal. I don't know if you guys saw it in just the signature way, like how you imagine that player scores every
Was
single one of his goals.
Are you talking? Did Joe Pavelski tip in a goal?
Absolutely. And it was a nasty tip, man. It was nasty. He
Dude,
tipped it at from like hip height and it bounced off the ice and it probably went up higher than it was originally going. Like it bounced, nasty bounce off the ice. It was
okay.
beautiful.
Quick side note. Other than Joe Pavelski, have you guys ever? Okay. We're gonna go back like hundreds of years of hockey, or at least 100 years of hockey history. Has there been a player who has that type of like hand-eye
Yes.
coordination?
His name is TJ
Yeah,
Oshie.
yeah, that's a very good point.
TJ
You know
Oshie is
what? It's a
ridiculously
very good
underrated
point.
as a front
Okay.
postman, like with tips and stuff like that. Ridiculously
Yeah,
underrated.
There was
but
there was a
but is
stat like
he? Sorry, is he at like I feel like when I think of
yeah,
Pavelski, I think of like
Yes,
that
every goal
net
is a tip
front
in.
tip. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Oshie has that in his
Yes.
locker, but it's not like
She's
a
also known for
part
his
of
hands, right? Like he
Yes.
exactly
can he can do
right.
stuff. There was a stat, and I wish I kept track of it, like maybe 2 weeks ago, where it was basically the four horsemen of tipping in the past 10 years, and it was exactly who you think. Maybe less than 10 years, it might have been 5 years. So who else could we see as the four horsemen of tipping? So Joey Pab's number one. There's a former
Was
Leaf who you'd
the George
expect on there.
Washington?
Ben
Yeah, is
Reeves,
JVR on there? Yeah.
JVR is on there. Anders Lee is on there. And I can't remember the
Ooh.
fourth guy. It might have been TJ Oshie, but I don't know if it was. And it was just like it was four guys who were just like, yeah, totally. That's exactly what you would expect. And it's just like sometimes you have a stat in your mind and you imagine who would be the front runners in it, and then you go actually look it up and there's names that you're like, what the hell? But no, for tip goals in the past however many years, it's exactly who you'd expect. Going back to Crosby, because I brought us on this rabbit hole. Super happy for him, just as a fan of the game in general. You love to see the legendary players do legendary things, and that's what we've seen Crosby do over the years. And this just adds to it. And there's probably going to be maybe another 100, 150. He could still end up at that 1700 mark. I definitely wouldn't put it past him. And honestly, might be likely. He only needs 200 points. He could probably do that in a year and a half, 2 years. So kudos to Crosby and cheers to the next 100, 200 points.
And I just want to shout out one last player that just reached another milestone. The same milestone as Pavelski over this past week. Claude Giroux hit 1,000 points. You know, I feel like Giroux's always been the guy like to go under the radar. He was a franchise player for the Flyers, and now he's doing pretty good things over there in Ottawa. Hopefully, he does eventually get his cup ring with them because they're on the way up slowly, right? But I just want to give a kudos to Giroux. You guys want to say anything about that?
That's another guy who has his signature. Okay, it's not a signature goal, but man, that guy on the face-off draw, nobody beats him. Like second to none. I don't know. I think in recent years it's kind of like declined. Like I don't think he was like prime Claude Giroux was like it was like every face-off he was winning. So that's his signature. That's what I'll always remember Claude Giroux for is his insane face-off stats.
Honestly,
Um,
he's honestly one of my favorite players. Like growing up from that era, I remember like when he got that NHL 13 cover. I know like that's not like the biggest achievement ever. I know that's just a small thing,
hey, it
but
was a good
Bro,
game.
dude, for us who are 13, that's like, yo,
Yeah.
this guy's sick.
and
That's my all-time favorite. Like, actually, no, 14 is, but
14.
13 is a close
Yeah.
second.
But his peak, I also remember like that peak season. It was like him versus Malkin. That was like the big storyline because obviously Crosby was hurt that year, and then there's so much going on. But man, it's just this guy kicked out. Like I remember that also that cup run. He he was a third line center, and he ended up booting out like the two other centers ahead of him, Mike Richards and Jeff Carter. But legacy player for the
I love that
Flyers.
Flyers team. I
Yeah,
What a
love that Flyers
three-headed
team. I was
monster.
so mad when Patty. I remember watching that. I was like, we were what 10 years old at the time,
yes,
and it took me so much to stay up for that game where Patty Kane ended up scoring the
and did it.
OT winner, and like everyone's confused. It's the signature or the classic. Patty
The
Kane is
ghost
the only
goal.
one who knows where the puck was. Like, oh, just seeing him celebrate, and I was like, no, the puck's not in. Just the that one kind of stung
The
a little
best
bit
was
as a
the
little kid.
reveal of the puck. It was like
Yes.
they pulled up the net and you just see it like tucked in, like it was like the bottom of the net, and I was like, oh damn.
That one.
No, that was a
Oh,
great series too.
Okay.
Like,
it was the whole run there. Just on the Giroux front, like he really is underrated. I'm pretty sure. Once again, another stat that I'm recalling and maybe not 100%. I'm pretty sure he's third in points from the 2010s. Like it goes Crosby, Kane, and Giroux. Pretty sure that's the order. So when you look at it like that, he's definitely underrated because is he the third most talked about player from the 2010s?
Absolutely not.
Probably not. Probably not.
Okay. So one last question I just want to give to you two both. 3 yeses for 3 Hall of Famers.
ooh, is Giroux? I don't know. Okay, so
I think Sid's the
is
obvious yes,
yeah,
and then
100%.
for
Oh,
me,
dude, no
Pavelski and
doubt.
Giroux are both on the online.
They're
They
on the
just need
fringes.
yes, yes.
100%. So what puts them over a cup? Probably, right?
Honestly, I think it's
Uh,
okay. It's, they both hit 1,000. Giroux, I'm pretty sure has 2 years on his deal. So if we say 2 years is the bare minimum for Giroux in the league, and if he can put up a combined, he'll probably put up a combined 100 points in 2 seasons. That feels like a low bar. So that'll get him to 1,100. How many? I guarantee you, if you go look at guys who aren't in the Hall of Fame with 1,100 points, there aren't many. So that might be enough.
I know
Um,
the big ones. I know the threshold is always the 1,000 point club, right? I
yeah,
think the only people off the top of my head that aren't in the Hall of Fame with over 1,000 NHL.
oh, Dave cut out there.
I think the only one is Pierre Turgeon. I think that's the one that's usually brought up. I don't remember 100% on that one either, but I do know last night when Giroux hit 1,000, they were talking about how many players in the NHL have hit 1,000. Do you know how many players, Brian?
Not off the top of my head, no.
The answer is 96 players in NHL history have hit 1,000 points. So only 96. There's probably like 90 of the 96 in, well, actually, so a bunch of them are probably active players, but a ton of them are in the Hall of Fame.
So
So
so my
they're
thing
probably
is
in.
if Backstrom gets in, these two have to get in, and I'm all for Backstrom getting the Hall of Fame. So for me, that's 3 yeses.
Backstrom hit 1,000, right? Yeah.
Backstrom's at like 1,030 or something like that now.
Okay.
But
Okay.
for me, yeah, these guys definitely get in. They were both legacy players for the franchises they played on, and regardless, 28 will be retired for the Flyers, and Pavelski's number will be retired as well for the Sharks, and potentially even the Stars. We'll see. Okay, so we just want to go over a couple more in-season milestones now. The first one we're going to go over is Erik Karlsson hitting 100 points, the first defenseman to do it since 1992, I believe. So kudos to him. I also want to
Yep.
shout out Dave over here for sniping that. Dave did say Erik Karlsson would hit 100 points, and Dave also said that Erik Karlsson will win the Norris. I don't know how we don't give him the Norris after hitting this milestone. I, I know that's not really like the topic we have here. We wanted to give him our kudos, but man, how many defensemen have we seen hit 100 points? Period. And in our era, he's the first. So
I think they said the number is 6,
wow.
right?
Yeah.
So, and you can probably name, well, Coffee or I think McInnes is one. I'm blanking after that.
I know
But that
Brian
is
Leach was the
heady
last
company.
one.
Okay, so you throw him in there. Maybe Phil Housley is another one. Like those are the class of defensemen in the entire history of the NHL.
And Erik
That's saying
Karlsson joins
something.
that group, and he's a 100-point club joiner now too. I mean, doesn't it just make you think like, what happens if Erik Karlsson's team was not talent deprived? What happens if Erik Karlsson's team was there to back him up, because it looks to me like he's the one getting all the points. Leading defenseman in the league and leading likely his team as well. That's pretty ridiculous, don't you guys think?
Okay, but that's an interesting conversation to have, though, Brian, because I know how you're saying, imagine if he had talent and imagine if he had the support, what great things could he do? But a lot of people would say this is the reason why he was able to put up 100 points, because who else was there to do it? And then if you provided him with that talent, the totals probably go down a bit. And I would say that tracks for just looking at the data we have. When Erik Karlsson first arrived in San Jose, it was a pretty good team. You still had Joe Pavelski there. I'm pretty sure they went to the conference finals. That was against St. Louis when St. Louis won the cup. So that was a pretty good team there. Tomas Hertl, Timo Meier, Logan Couture, Brent Burns on the back end. It was a good team. The caveat there is we don't think Karlsson was even close to 100% healthy at that point in time. So that is definitely something that can be brought up. But I don't know. I do kind of lean to the idea that he was able to do some of the things he could this year, not only because there wasn't talent around him, but there was no pressure for his team to win games, and he could take the Erik Karlsson risks that we've seen throughout his career without worrying about consequence. This is not a guy who's going to get benched by David Quinn after giving up a puck. And we did see some of those crazy turnovers this year. There was a couple low lights for Karlsson where I think there was one in overtime. Don't remember who it was against, where he just simply decided, yep, I'm not going to turn around and chase this guy on a breakaway in overtime. Right. You take the good and the bad with Karlsson, and lots of good this year.
Yeah, I think to credit that point, I think he's got 100 points, but I think he's like a minus 27 or something on the season. Which, listen, that's not the be all end all, because you could give me 100 guesses, I would not be able to tell you who his defensive partner is, or maybe even some of his forward line mates. Maybe Alex Barabanov. I don't know. So that's not the be all end all, but minus 27 is definitely a glaring stat, and all the underlying numbers do suggest that 100%. He's going back. It's just, as a defenseman, it's not going to go for him. He's a fourth forward, and he has been his most of his career, right? One point that you brought up though, Bri, or I forgot who said it. It was like, I don't know if we see a 100-point season out of Erik Karlsson if, like, you know, let's transport his 100% healthiness back to 2017 when he gets traded. I've 85 points for him, dude. That's a fantastic season, right? Coming off of like a really bad stretch, bad end to Ottawa, right? And he went into San Jose, and I think he put up like 70 points. And again, San Jose made it to, what was it, the conference finals that year against St. Louis. It was a very good run, right? But the thing was, that's what San Jose expected every year. That's what the Sharks franchise expected for the, 8 years that they signed him after. Unfortunately, hasn't been like that. Then injuries did start to take its toll. But you know what? Hats off to Erik Karlsson getting 100% healthy this year, playing 100% healthy this year, because that's not something that he's done in a while. Like, I don't know if he's done 82 over the past couple of years. So, you know what? Good for him getting his flowers. If there was one defenseman, guys, that, you know, over the past, I would say in our lifetime, 15 years of watching hockey, that we would say this is going to be the guy to hit 100 points for the first time in like 25 years, it's probably Erik Karlsson, right? Like, nobody even comes close, I don't think. Maybe somebody like Cale Makar now could be the next one, and we'll see what the future holds. But to get the first, I thought it was going to be Roman Josi last year, man. I was on board. I was like, please just give us one, you know, let's set this milestone. And he just fell just short. So that's why I was rooting for Erik Karlsson. You guys said that I nailed it on the head when I called him to hit 100 points. I was like, I don't know if I called it, just more of the fact that I just really wanted to see it, and I really wanted the feel-good story. So
You got it.
hats off to him. Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, it's good.
I just wonder how many like reporters, journalists, whoever gets to vote on awards, like knock Karlsson down a peg or two to second or third for the Norris voting just because of the defensive performance. But I'll be honest with you guys. I'm on the boat that this guy got 100 points. No other defenseman was able to do that in how many years? 20 years, something like that. Just give him the award. Give him his third.
I think that voters are going to have sympathy for Karlsson, and I think he's going to get the Norris because it's going to be like the lifetime achievement award whole deal that we see in other sports too. It's something that's voter fatigue is talked about in the NBA a lot right now with the MVP race. It's always talked about in baseball, and it's not necessarily voter fatigue in this case. Because I guess the number two, we talked about this in our chat yesterday. The numbers would say it's Adam Fox, who is a Norris winner himself. But this isn't really voter fatigue. It is definitely deserved for Karlsson. If we had a comeback player of the year award, which I know we kind of sort of do, but Karlsson would deserve a comeback player of the award here too, right?
And
100%.
speaking of comeback players, let's talk about a player that's hasn't been coming back. Well, he has been coming back every single season, and he's quietly got under the radar this year. I don't know. It's just because his team's been so good. Erik Pastrnak hit 60 goals. How long did we go without getting a 60-goal scorer? And then in the past 2 years, we've gotten like 3.
Yeah.
Pretty
Well,
crazy.
it was 10 years, right? It was
Yes.
10 years till Austin between Stamkos and Matthews. That was the gap, right? Now it's going to be like I kind of feel like now we have 2 of them. So do we see maybe 3, maybe 4 next year? I could count maybe like 3 guys for sure could be locked for 60 goals. You count McDavid again, you count Pastrnak again, who both hit it this year. Then maybe you count a bounce back year from Austin Matthews, which, spoiler alert, I had as my 90% prediction for him to get back-to-back 60s, and he did it, unfortunately, but he did hit 40. So, yeah, good enough, whatever. But now it kind of feels like the sky's the limit. Like, you have guys like Tage Thompson, Jason Robertson, I know last night, I believe, hit 47 or 48. He, I believe, broke the Dallas Stars single-season record.
Draisaitl.
Oh, dude, I forgot about him. Like, that's somebody
McKinnon,
who goes.
if he's actually healthy the whole season too, which doesn't always happen.
Draisaitl goes under the radar on his own team, and he's like second in league scoring, but he's second on his
the
team
second best
scoring.
player in the league, and he goes under the radar.
Like, unbelievable, right? Like, we have a whole crop of talent who it kind of just feels like if the stars line up perfectly, we could potentially see like 6 60-goal scorers as early as next year. Like, who knows, right?
Nice. And don't forget Connor Bedard, right? Like, we can't forget
that guy. Dude,
you don't put it
he could hit 80 goals next year. I'd be like,
there, man.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, Pasta is scary, man. Like, it's just, once again, like, you can just envision the Pasta goal in your head, and I hate it. Man. They set up that little triangle between Bergeron and Marchand. Tic-tac-toe passing, goes behind the goal line, or it's on the other side of the zone, and they just feed it to him. And he's basically standing at the goal line, and he can just snipe it. And I hate it so much. But I respect the man. I respect the boogeyman because he's entertaining as hell. He can snipe it. He can pass it. He does a bunch.
And he has an insane personality.
Exactly.
So good for hockey.
He's good for hockey. Just off the top of my head, outside of Yager, like, is he the best Czech player of all time? I'm trying to think if there's any other Czech player who comes close. I don't know off the top of my head. And this is totally off the dome. Like, I don't know. But he's probably in the conversation, to be honest, right?
Was Marian Hossen Czech? Slovakian.
Yeah.
One of those.
So when you said Czech, the first player that came to my mind was Yager. And the second one was Voracek. So
so that tells you. Okay,
yeah.
You figured out the answer, right?
Bit of a drop off.
So yeah, probably. But that's just off the top of my head. Obviously, if you look into the numbers, sure, you probably figure something else out better than Voracek, most likely. But moral of the story is Pastrnak, 60 goals. Shout out to him. Fantastic job. Crazy season as well. Probably get into that later or somewhere in the future because of the fact that this is literally the greatest team, like most wins of all time. So it'll come up again. Regardless, let's move on to our next topic, which is Bo Horvat's comments towards the Vancouver Canucks after the post game from the Islanders. David, do you have the exact quote from Horvat?
Yeah. So I'm not too sure who the MSG reporter was, but she basically asked Bo Horvat after the game. She was like, "How does the UBS arena, how does this playoff atmosphere feel like?" And he basically was like, uh, I believe the exact quote was, "It's a lot better than Vancouver. I'll tell you that for free." Like that, those are his exact words, which, he had to go on record, I believe, either the next day or shortly after the game, and I had to apologize for his comments. He's like, it was taken. What did he say, Christian? He was like taken out of context and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't know.
That, yeah, where they didn't mean to say what he said. No.
Yeah, he meant it a different way. Like, how are you trying to like?
What he really meant is, no, I wouldn't give you these answers for free. I would have. You just had to pay me a little bit more, and then he said for free by accident. That's what he meant, Dave. That's what he meant.
Is that what it was? Okay. Yeah.
So
I mean, that's just like, it's just such a bizarre, not a bizarre comment, but it's just so unexpected.
It's bizarre
from Bo
coming
Horvat.
from him. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
it's bizarre coming from Bo Horvat's mouth, but hear me out. He literally went through the worst generation for the Canucks like that we've seen in our lifetime, in the sense that like they were just rebuilding the whole time, poor management, and then when he got captaincy, he had to try to fix everything, but it's hard to fix management when it's so broken from top to bottom. If there was one guy in that whole NHL that had that much stress on him during the past 6 months, it's Bo Horvat. That guy had a tough time, and it's nice to see that he gets a little bit weight off his shoulders in New York. Well, for the Islanders now. And I don't feel like those comments are undeserved, or like those comments they didn't come from a dark, deep down place in his heart. And now he's on the cusp of the playoffs with a little bit of hype behind the team. Maybe it just came out. Maybe the colors just started to show. And they weren't blue
That's
and
what
white.
I think it was, man. Yeah. I think it was a Freudian slip. Okay, and let's also be clear. Now that I think about it, his statement is true, and not even in a disrespectful way to Vancouver fans, because I think they only made the playoffs twice in his tenure. One of those times was with frickin' Willie Desjardins, and they played Calgary. I don't even remember who won that series. I'm pretty sure the Flames won that series.
Yeah,
it was a weird.
That was like.
That was the heart. What was the Flames?
The heart
thing?
attack kids. It was like something like that. The cardiac kids.
Cardiac kids. Nailed it, Dave. So cardiac kids, I'm pretty sure beat the Canucks. And when was the other time the Canucks made the playoffs, guys?
Bubble.
Oh, the bubble. The fake playoffs.
The fake playoffs with no fans. So Bo Horvat didn't really get to experience Vancouver's playoff atmosphere that much. And that season would have been rocking in Vancouver. Like they were a up and coming team who they beat the St. Louis Blues. They beat the defending champs, right? Like they would have had the whole city rally around them in the arena, not just far away from it. So while it's an inflammatory answer from Bo, it's not really wrong, and it's not too disrespectful when you look at it that way. It is still funny though. That is 100%, and I'll tell you that for free.
So, if you guys see comments like this, if you're a fan of that team, would it rub you the wrong way, or would you take it as a, you know what, maybe we do need more villains in NHL? Like, what's your take on that?
Dave, have we ever seen this from a Leaf perspective? I'm trying to think of past players.
I don't think we can, because if anything that a Leaf play, like anything that a Toronto. If you come through Toronto, it gets amplified by 2,000 times, what it is, right? So you could say the most jovial. You can make the most jovial comment, and somebody will misconstrue it to mean something completely different, right? So I don't think we have the luxury to ever see we're just villains. We're like the Leafs in itself. We're painted as villains regardless of what we do. We were getting yelled at. The Leafs were getting yelled at because they put in a UFT goalie for the last 70 seconds of a game against the Habs where they were up 7-1. If any other team does that, it's oh wow, what a fantastic story.
That's a great story.
For the kid. all the Leafs fans were like, "Oh, great story for the kids." Everybody else was yelling at us about it. They were saying it was classless. Yeah.
Disrespect.
So
Yeah.
we actually I'll make a parallel. We did have a villain actually after that game against Montreal. Chris Weidman
Yeah.
went to the media and was like, "The Leafs are going to get what they deserve in the first round." Now, Chris Weidman is a sixth defenseman, offensive defenseman with 0 goals this year. He's going to be out of the league, I would imagine, within the next couple of years as the Habs are building back up again, right? So he's not going to be here, but that sentiment will be here the next time that the Habs come to play Toronto. So you add a little bit more flames. The next time that the Vancouver Canucks are in town, you think that maybe they'll play with a little bit more fire, like, wow, this guy used to be the captain and you're saying this about, our city. Like, you left. Like, get out of here. Get your name out of our mouth. So 100% next season, Vancouver versus the Islanders, I would say in Vancouver, maybe both times in both cities. There might be something there. Maybe we'll see a match strike and we'll see some flames. But
There will definitely be an FU bow chant in Vancouver. That's what you'll get.
100%. There'll be something.
I want to go back to the Weidman thing just for a second. I know this isn't necessarily what we're talking about, but Weidman has dethroned himself for the best Weidman moment that I can remember. Do you guys know what other? Okay, not even that though. What I remember about Chris Weidman, what comes to my mind is that stupid Senators scandal with like 4 players in the back of the Uber that got recorded.
Oh, jeez.
Mocking their coach. Remember that?
Yeah.
They were mocking an assistant coach, and Weidman was in that Uber. That's what I remember about Weidman.
Dude.
And he dethroned himself. And I hope Chris Weidman's right. The Leafs get what they deserve. A second-round series with the New York Islanders. No, I'm just, okay. We won't go there yet. But that was funny too. That was funny.
I just had a crazy, like, I was putting some dots together here. This guy, so Chris Weidman, again, I'm sorry to Bo Horvat. Maybe we'll get back to his comments, but I just wanted to bring something up. This guy has single-handedly made half of the Canadian teams hate him. So we brought up the cross check. That was to a referee. Now, does anybody remember what happened in the fallout of this cross check?
I actually think that it was Dennis Weidman. I thought
that one Dennis?
Yeah.
Dude, you're right.
I can't make because what I was gonna say was in the after that that incident, Calgary like wasn't getting calls. Like they were like 30, it was like 30th or 31st, whatever, in calls for like 2 years after until I forget. I might have been like Glenn Glutzen or whoever the coach was at the time, who had to like step up and say like, hey, like you guys aren't calling anything against us. And this like and they brought up that incident. So then, okay, so you know what? It sucks because I would have been like, yeah, he's doing a hatred tour all across Canada. I'm waiting to see where he goes next, maybe Winnipeg, but
it's okay. It's
Chris
still
Weidman,
the last
Dennis
name
Weidman.
If your last name is Weidman, we don't like you in Canada. That's the moral of the story here.
Well.
What I will also say is Chris Weidman will not have a job when Lane Hudson comes up. So
well, he's gonna have to wait another year for that because Lane Hudson, I don't know why he decided he wants to still get an education, even though he was the best defenseman in all of college last season. Anyways, now we're getting too off topic. Take it away, Brian. Take it away.
Okay, and we're gonna take a short break. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back. We just got back from a break. Christian told me to take it away, but I just had to get a quick breath and just recover and figure some stuff out for the rest of this episode. So for the last segment, we're just going to go over our 90-50-10 predictions and just our award predictions early in the year, just because of the fact that we are so close to the end of the season and we are on the cusp of playoffs. Okay, so let's try to like keep score of our 90-50-10 predictions like right now. Like we'll go over the 90s first and see who hit. Then we'll go over the 50s and then the 10. So I'll start with my 90. I picked a lock because like the only way this wasn't going to hit was if it ended in injury. And my prediction was that Ovechkin was going to get 35 goals, which he did get. So that's a point for me, I guess. Dave, what was your 10? Sorry, what was your 90?
Yeah, so my 90 was definitely more of like a 50 or something lower than that. I said Matt. I actually alluded to it earlier in the show. I said that Matthews would hit 60. He didn't, unless he scores like 20 goals in the last two games here, which very, very, very unlikely. Um, but he did hit 40. So maybe if I said, I don't know, hitting 50, maybe that would have looked better on
If you
me.
took the
But
safe
like,
route like me with 35, you would have hit it. So
I
Yeah,
should
I
have
feel
just
like
said
Brian
I
really
should have
teased that
said
line
40.
low, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think
Should have
like
just took Matthew said 5 goals on the year. Yeah.
yeah, so Matthews 40 this year actually surpassed the most consecutive 40 goal seasons in Maple Leaf history. It's like 3. Which
Yeah.
Wow.
is
Oh,
oh man. When I saw that stat, it was like he passed Daryl Siller, who has 2. I was like, oh my god. Dear God, we've been
pain.
starved. We've been starved.
Absolute pain in Leafland.
Oh my god. So
Um,
Christian, what do you got for us?
so mine is still in limbo. All right, mine is actually not decided yet. My 90 was that the last place team in the league would come out of the Central, aka Arizona or Chicago. Well, Arizona's got 69 points, so nice, but not nice for my prediction because, yeah, they won't be finishing last. Chicago right now is in last with 56 points, 80 games played. However, they're tied in points with Columbus. Columbus has a game in hand. Arizona's at 58. I mean, Anaheim's at 58. San Jose's at 60. This is a tight race. The race for Connor Bedard, or at least the best odds for Connor Bedard, is going down to the wire. I won't be cheering for Chicago. I hope I'm wrong in this one because I don't want Chicago to get Bedard. But yeah, mine is still in limbo as we speak right now.
I think Anaheim's on like a 10-game losing streak as well. So
Absolute
they're
heater.
taking it to the bank
Absolute
right now.
reverse heater for the Anaheim Ducks.
It's gonna be Washington that wins in the lottery. I just want to let you guys know that. Speaking into, let's move into the 50s. I was way off with this one, and I apologize. Has to be like the worst take I've ever probably made in my life, and it's on video forever to be shared. My 50 was that I thought the Bruins were gonna miss. And in my defense, hear me out. Did you not see the upgrades Ottawa
Everybody's
made?
hearing you right now.
Did you hear? Did you not see the upgrades Ottawa made this season to their team? On paper, they look so good, but nope. The Bruins just had to have the best season in NHL history, and I was off.
Brad,
Now.
the one thing holding Ottawa back this year was that they employed Nikita Zaitsev on their right side, top line defense for like 4 months. That did not
That's
have,
fair.
dude. If Jacob Chikrin was on this team to start the year, oh my god, dude, they'd be neck and neck with the Bruins right now. Because ever since that trade deadline, it's like them and I think the Oilers who have had like 2 of the best records in hockey.
It's just
They
crazy.
also they don't employ goalies that make saves or
That's
are
another
available
thing
to
too.
make saves, right?
Shout out
They
to Mads
offloaded
Sogard.
Matt Murray. Yeah, Mads Sogard is very Mads with himself because he can't make saves. At least when the Leafs played him, he would not make saves. Cam Talbot.
It's not
flew
just
to a
against the
bench.
Leafs. It's
Oh,
not just against the
yeah.
Leafs. He got lit up. I think it was on Saturday. He got lit up. Oh, I
And,
felt so bad.
Do you know what is the salt in the wound about the Ottawa Senators goaltending situation? So I alluded to them getting off Matt Murray, paying compensation for the Leafs to take him, and him being okay, at least when he was playing. Hasn't always been available. But you want to know a goalie who's been available to their team for most of the season and been fantastic? Philip Gustafson for the Minnesota Wild, who the Ottawa Senators traded for Cam Talbot, right? So that is salt in the wound when we talk about the Senators goaltending. I'm gonna skip over Dave here in his 50 because my 50 is the same as Brian's. I also had the Bruins missing the playoffs. I also suck a ton when it came to predicting this. And I did also cite the Senators as the team that should jump them. And my God, I was wrong. And I will never doubt the Bruins again, just like I stopped doubting the Lightning this year. So you will never hear me say the Bruins are missing the playoffs until they do it themselves and show me because Yeah, they shoved that down my throat,
It just like
and I got nothing.
it just
I got nothing. I got no
like
leg to stand on.
from the day I started watching hockey, the Capitals have destroyed the Bruins every single season, every single year. We had like a 20-game win streak against them,
Yeah.
something ridiculous like that. Then that one season we lost them in the playoffs, like the wheels started coming off, and then now that we can't beat them, and now they beat me in every prediction, and it's like some yin yang stuff. I had
Yeah.
fun early, and now I'm paying for it now, but it's okay because Dave, I think he's gonna hit. Well, he's probably gonna hit his 50.
I
Well,
might. Okay,
there's a chance you don't, but yeah.
So one team I don't bet on is the Boston Bruins. The other team I don't bet against, the New York Islanders, baby. Right now, the New York Islanders are holding the second wild card spot with 91 points. The Pittsburgh Penguins have a game in hand on them, so and they're a point behind at 90. So there is a chance, but for the time being, the Islanders actually lost Monday night, so that would have been April 10th. We're recording this Tuesday morning. Yeah, they lost to these guys. To the Caps. Yeah. If you're listening to it, if you're listening to this pod, yeah, you know what? Just something in my mind was like, these guys are 2 years removed from making an Eastern Conference final. It was relatively the same core. I didn't expect them to go and get Bo Horvat, who has played well. I don't know if he's exceeded expectations of, coming in. Like, he's kind of gone a little bit cold on his goal scoring streak, which is fine. But adding Bo Horvat definitely helps. They just seem to have come together as a team, and it certainly helps that they have a potential Vezina winner in the future. Maybe not this year, but in the future, 100% Ilya Sorokin's going to get one. Man, has he been lights out for them all year? So I'm glad, even if they barely miss, I'm glad to say at the very least, I saw the potential with them. But I guess I kind of as a half point right now, because at the time of this recording, they're in a spot.
And I just wanted to also say this. It's funny because, Dave, I remember I gave you a lot of crap for picking the Islanders getting to the playoffs. I also just want to say that it's funny how your guy John Tavares saved the Islanders season. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I think Florida needed 2 points or something like that, and then John Tavares kept him only to 1. So
yeah, I think they would have clinched with that extra point. So yeah.
And speaking about extra points, I did not get the extra point. My prediction, my 10, did not hit because my prediction for my 10% was Dylan Strome would get 35 goals. Unfortunately, he's only at 22 goals. I actually don't mind missing this one because he did everything else right for me. 40 assists for a total of 62 points, I believe, off the top of my head. And he got a nice extension. He's going to be a Capital for the next 5 years. So I'm happy about that. I care more about, a good player staying on my team for the next couple of years, transitioning into the rebuild, rather than, I don't know, some dumb game that I went 1 for 3 for. All right, Chris, what was your 10? Because I know you hit it. So.
Oh God, my 10. No. See, we always get this confused. So I'll leave what you guys think was my 10 after.
Oh,
because,
okay. I know what your 10 was
10.
now. Oh,
Yeah. My god awful 10% was the Nashville Predators to win the President's Trophy. Oh boy. It feels like the Predators have had 2 separate seasons. The season with guys that they traded away. So Ekholm, Niederreiter, Granlund. And this second season where the new stars of the Nashville Predators are actually guys from the Milwaukee Admirals. I was watching some of the game yesterday. Very important game for the Preds against the Flames. And their top power play unit is straight up 3 forwards from the AHL team. And don't know who the forward is, but the defenseman wasn't playing on the team until a couple weeks ago. His name is Tyson Barrie. Those 3 forwards are Tommy Novak, Luke Evangelista, and Phil Tomasino. They have absolutely turned around the Preds, and they still have a chance to make the playoffs. So I will take solace in that fact. If they are able to get it done, it's still unlikely. Jets are in the driver's seat. But it's been interesting to watch their season. And part of the reason I had so much optimism was because of some of the guys that are up now, specifically Phil Tomasino. I had him as one of my breakout type of players. and he's been good as long as he's been in the NHL. But you have to be in the NHL to be a breakout player. I think he's got like 18, 19 points in 20, mid 20s worth amount of games. So he's been pretty good. And I think if they had some of these young guys up the whole season, plus some of the guys they traded, definitely could have been a slightly better team. And I do. It's one of those teams where I like a lot of the individual players, and just for whatever reason, some of the parts wasn't that good. And it's something that we talked about. I remember on deadline day, I think it was when we heard about the news of Trotz taking over for Poyle at the end of the season. Dave alluded to the fact that maybe it's not the players, it's the coach. And yeah, that can definitely still be true, right? So, like I said, we'll see. I hope the Preds can sneak into the playoffs, and I will take solace in that fact, but they did not sniff the President's Trophy.
Okay, I guess I'll wrap this up quickly then. Yeah, my 10% was that the Arizona Coyotes were going to make it against all odds. They were going to make it into the playoffs. They definitely they did it. It looked
there
like
was one stretch, man, where it was there. Like,
It was in that first month of the season when like Nick Ritchie was scoring goals in bunches or something like that. Matthias Maccelli was like on rookie setting pace there.
Clayton
and
Keller
then the wheels,
having God sent season.
Clayton Keller, like I was going through the point list. I think he's at 85 or 86.
Yeah, 85.
Holy dude, somebody give that man some support.
He's coming to Washington, so
hey, don't put disrespect on my boy Nicky Schmaltz, okay? That's some support.
Nicky Schmaltz and Nick Bajukstad.
Hey, the Bajukstad.
The Bajukster. Yeah, so I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, that was like I just threw that in. I was like, you know, if it hits by the grace of God, like so I'm gonna go buy a lottery ticket if that hit. But yeah, so they're nowhere close to making the playoffs, and it doesn't look like they're gonna make the playoffs for the next few years, 100%. So you know what? I mean, glad to be in the league, Arizona, I guess.
Let's tally it up, boys, because I have a chance to go 0 for 3. Slight chance to maybe get that 1 point. Brian's got 1. Dave's got 1. Wow, guys, we suck. No, I'm joking. That was fun.
Wait,
it was
don't
fun
you
to
have
do.
potential to go 2? Oh no, your 50 was thing.
Same as mine. Yeah,
so,
that's right.
I don't know if do you guys remember doing our hottest take?
I don't.
I wrote mine down because I remember we did like a hottest take, and that's where my Tage Thompson thing comes from, which was saying that Tage Thompson is the real deal and that he would eclipse the 40 goal mark.
We'll give you that one.
Sir, he did.
Pretty good.
I'll very quickly tell the story very briefly again. I love Tage Thompson from 2018, going to watch John Tavares' first preseason game at Scotiabank Arena, in which he scored 2 goals against the Sabres. And I was watching with buddies, and we were talking about like who looks good on the ice. Number 1 was Tavares. He was fantastic. Scored like a couple minutes in. There was this Pierre Engvall guy on the Leafs. So like that guy's kind of fast. He looks kind of weird the way he skates, but he's pretty good. I wonder what's gonna happen with that guy. And the third guy was Tage Thompson, who I don't even know if he scored in that game, but he's just this huge 6'5" dude skating up the ice, taking clappers left and right. And I'm like, that guy looks kind of good. I was only off by 5 years for him to be good, but he's here now. And he's probably one of the more entertaining players to watch. So
are the St. Louis Blues, man.
Yeah,
they were 5 years, 5 years too early on his prediction.
They could always point to a cup, so they've got that in the.
You are right, for sure.
Yeah, if there wasn't a cup, then we could definitely tear into them.
Tager is a great player, and I'm pretty sure he should have been a Capital because I think we moved down in that draft with that.
Ooh.
Yeah, like it was our pick. I think it was Lucas Johansson. It was a Matthews draft, I think. So we got a first and a third.
The Zach Sanford pick?
No,
the Shattenkirk pick?
No, it was we just moved down. Like it was a first and a third for like a first, something like that, and then you know those typical trades. Well, you guys do better than I do, but
yeah, we do a lot.
But we went for Lucas Johansson, and they got Tage Thompson. Obviously, you guys know who I'd rather have coming from the U.S. program instead of the Rockets, Kelowna Rockets. But what's done is done. The Sabres got a free rebuild off of giving up their best player, I guess. But it doesn't matter. That player is now with the Leafs, and these guys will be doing some playoff stuff soon I won't be doing anything for the playoffs because my team didn't make it. But shout out to Fubo. they're doing I think
Draft lottery stuff.
draft lottery stuff. Yeah. Amazing. And they're also doing the playoffs, which is probably a little bit more important. Arguably more important than the playoff than the lottery this year. But also, if you're looking to get any NHL merchandise, any NHL jerseys, shout out to NHLshop.ca. Chris can get his Tage Thompson jersey and his Tommy Novak jersey over there. Shout out to Razor. Thank you guys for listening. This is the end of our podcast. Actually, one more thing. You guys know what I'm going to say. Shout out to Dave's TikToks.
Yeah.
This is the end of our podcast. This is episode 28. I think we're going to do full-length episodes next time because of the fact that it is the playoffs.
We'll be wanting to yap lots. Lots of yapping coming up.
Yes, and by that time, I think that we'll already be done a couple games in the playoffs. If we do it week by week, or if we choose to do it game by game, we'll see. Doesn't matter. But all I know is that these guys are going to be really passionate, really excited for the playoffs this year. And someone actually got tickets. So
yeah, hit to the bank account, but it'll be worth it.
It'll be worth it. We'll see. If they get to that point, because there's a chance that one team takes it first. But basically, Christian did get Game 7 in Toronto.
Game 7 ticks. Let's hope there's no Game 7, and then they'll just buy round 2 ticks instead.
We're gonna end the pod here.
Right in my room.
We're gonna end the pod here. Thank you for listening. All the best. Bye.